Hi, I'm Richard Dingus, and I'm with Siskiyou Media Council. And today, this is College Corner, and today I am with Jeremiah Larue, who is ahead of the Police Academy at College of the Siskiyous. So, Jeremiah, welcome.
Thank you, Richard. Good to be here.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about the Academy?
I sure can. I know quite a bit about it, as you can imagine. So it's one of 41 academies in the state. California is very large. You think about the population of California, it's over 40 million people. And you know, the state, I mean, it goes all the way down to the Mexico border. And when you think about our state north of us, Oregon, there's like a little bit over 4 million people. That's quite a difference. And with that, with the more people, they have more police departments, more sheriff's offices, and you need more officers, of course, to patrol the area. And we have sort of a diverse area of California that we live in. And geographically, you know, we're pretty isolated from a lot of things up here in Siskiyou County. And one of the things we hope to achieve in Siskiyou County, and this is going back several years, is that we could have our own law enforcement academy. Because it's hard for people that are local to get to an academy. It might be a little bit easier for younger people who don't have maybe strong roots in the community to sort of uproot entirely and move to an academy. But for those that are currently working, that have been here for many, many years, have a family and a job, they can't just, quit. And so that's always been a challenge for people locally. And the closest academy, you have to go south, and you're getting into Butte County and Yuba County, and it's just hours away. And that's really hard for a family that's rooted here. If you go over to the coast, Redwoods has an excellent academy. The only problem is, it could be a 5.5-hour drive, and there's no real easy way to get to the Redwoods. You have to either go north into Oregon and over, you have to go down past Redding, and then head west. So it's been a big project for us to get an academy, and so we're really proud to have it here.
So how many cadets do you put through your academy per year?
So right now we just started a class. We hope to offer 2 a year, and the academies we call them intensive, meaning that they're Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So it mirrors like a work week. And we have 30 cadets in our academy. We just started one in January, and we'll have another one in July. And by offering 2 a year, hopefully people can sort of plan and get their life in order to come up here if they're not from our local area. Or, some people have considered a career in law enforcement, but they need to, maybe quit their job or finish some schooling or take care of some family business before they make that big jump. Because it's an all-day, everyday kind of thing. So we're going to run 2 a year, and hopefully between 30 and 40 people in the class.
Okay, I understand too you use veterans that are in the military. Is it a pretty good balance between the two? You have, the civilians, and you also have military?
We do, and we found that in some of our classes, in the last several of them, we have anywhere between 10 and 30% that are veterans. And law enforcement's paramilitary, so it's very similar in its structure. And we find that those who have been former, military people, or they've been in the service, they sort of adapt a little bit easier to law enforcement. They understand chain of command and the structure, the rank, and whatnot. And it's all about community service, which I would think all of our men and women in the service, really have a passion for the community, for sure, and definitely the country. And so it's nice, and we found that they really have appreciated the crossover. It's not a huge difference. One of the concerns that, I think a lot of people have is that when you come out of the military and then you head into the civilian world, it can be a huge difference. Even for someone in law enforcement to maybe leave law enforcement, go into a civilian job, it's different. Things are set up differently. So it's nice, I think it's comforting for people that are veterans to know that there is a job out there, a career, that is real similar to what they've already experienced in the military.
So what's your success rate? Is it pretty good?
It is really good. The last few classes, so we've been, if you want to get back on the history, we've had law enforcement training in Siskiyou County at College of the Siskiyous for years and years. I mean, we're talking like in the 80s. And it hasn't been the complete academy. It's been parts and pieces of the academy. And now we have a full academy. And when I say full, it just has all of the training that is necessary so that you don't have to go anywhere else and receive any other training. You can get it all done here. And so the success rates for the last few classes have been really high. And in part, it's because we have what I feel is really unique here at College of the Siskiyous Law Enforcement Academy, is that we have agencies from all over the state. And when I say all over the state, we've had agencies come up from the Bay Area and, of course, all the sheriff's departments in the North State that have recruited our current cadets. And what they're doing, which is really fascinating, is that they're interviewing our cadets here at the college, and they're offering them jobs on the spot, depending on how the interview goes. And I don't think that's happening everywhere. That's a huge deal to us, because think about it. I mean, these cadets, they're looking for jobs, and they could potentially get one like immediately. And so I would say with our last couple groups that it's somewhere around 75% or higher that have received full-time jobs in a relatively short amount of time.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Many of them are here in our local community, which is excellent.
So tell me a little bit about the challenges that you face, more so today than you did maybe 15 years ago when you first got into the academy.
Right.
What are they looking at today that's so different?
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of changes. There's changes that occur every year in law enforcement. Of course, there's cultural changes, but one of the big things we look at are all the legal changes that come up. And we see a lot of those on TV every year. Like every January, there's always this huge list of new laws or maybe new vehicle code laws. And those are important to know because starting in January, there might be some new thing that you could do before the beginning of the year, and then suddenly you can't do anymore. You need to pay attention to those. So legislature is really busy in Sacramento creating laws and changing them. I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. And so we have to be very aware of that and vigilant of the changes that occur constantly. So there's all kinds of laws, I mean, there's a lot of frustration in law enforcement and also in the community about some of the laws and how they have changed over the years. And, it's a tough place to be in because we want to encourage people that even though things maybe look a little bit different than they used to, or things are frustrating, we're talking about cadets that may be frustrated with the new legal changes, just to be encouraged that you, as a new law enforcement officer, can still go into the community and make a difference. And laws are always going to change, so you can't just sort of give it up entirely because of the law that changed, because things come and go all the time. So one of the things that we're seeing, though, just kind of a trend, is that there's sort of this a trust issue with law enforcement. There's a lot of great law enforcement officers out there, and it's interesting. A lot of people don't really have a day-to-day interaction with law enforcement. We know that they're out there, but you might wave at them, but they don't always come to your house, and that may be a really good thing, right? So it's kind of interesting to just to be aware of that there are many different things that sort of can make people distrust law enforcement. There's a lot of things you see on the news and whatnot, and it's sad. I always want to encourage people that that even at the worst of the worst, there may be some officers out there that don't behave perfectly. I mean, we're still human, and one of the things that we do at the academy, we talk about this all the time. It's just humanizing the badge, and we call it that. And it's just the realization that we wear a uniform, we have a certain type of authority, but we're still human on the inside. And how do we communicate that to the public to know that we still want you to trust us? And we're going to do everything we can, especially in the academy setting, to encourage that and to let people know that we have all of the concerns, that we hear about in our day-to-day lives on TV or in the newspaper. We're taking that information and putting it into the academy training so that they're aware of it, so we don't make the same mistakes twice, and that we encourage them and that we build the trust back within the community, because public perception's huge.
Right. Can you tell us a little bit about the physical training that they have to go through?
Yes, there's a lot of it. It's physically demanding, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So a part about, being a law enforcement officer is just being physically fit. And, there's plenty of people out there that you look at and go, yeah, they're not physically fit anymore. And it's kind of funny, but it's true. There was a time probably in the academy where most of us were, the top of our game. And then, life happens and we eat a little too much maybe every now and then, and we get out of shape. Imagine that. So, but we want to create a sort of a trend sort of in law enforcement that we need to stay physically fit and sharp, because you might have to be in a chase or something. You might have to, like a foot pursuit or something like that. Or you're trying to, arrest somebody and they're resisting, really aggressively. And you don't want to get overpowered and put yourself or somebody else in a place that you might get hurt, or even worse, killed. And so physical fitness is huge. It teaches discipline, and it's good for the heart. It's good for the mind. It's good for the body. And so we teach that constantly. Right now we have physical fitness training almost daily. And they do a lot of Olympic weightlifting. They do a lot of cardio. They do a lot of running, just to keep the full sort of spectrum of physical fitness going. And we want that to continue. It's the learning domain that we have, the topic. It's called lifetime fitness, because we want it to be up for over a lifetime. Mm-hmm. It's not just do it in the academy and stop. We want to sort of encourage people to continue their fitness throughout. So in addition to just doing exercise, they constantly have to do things like, they need to be prepared, not only just in their gym clothes, but also in full uniform. So we have lots of different trainings where we take them out in their full uniform, and that includes, of course, their uniform shirt, their ballistic vest, and their duty belt, and their boots, and we go for runs in that.
And the women have to go through the same.
They have the exact same standards as the men. Okay. And we want to encourage, like I said, a standard, so that way everyone stays at the top of their game.
Good. I know that you also work in the communities, and you help out during Christmas and whatnot. Do you bring the cadets into that too, so they can kind of get an experience with us doing that?
We do. We're big on community service. Law enforcement is all about community service. And what we've done in the last few classes is that we've engaged in certain community services. And some of the most recent community services that we've had include doing Shop with a Cop, which occurs in Wairika around Christmas time at Walmart. And it's an excellent grant that, it's great for the community. What it allows people to do is, there's people in the community that don't get, maybe a Christmas that we would hope they could. And what they're able to do is they show up at Walmart, and they get to go shop around, the kids do, with an officer, a local officer in the community. And they get to pick out some things that are on their list, and it's paid for by Walmart. And so it's really cool. And one of the things that we did recently with our cadets is that we had them show up and assist with that. And they got to meet Santa Claus. And everybody loves Santa Claus, right? How could you not? And one of the other things that we have done is a Relay for Life, which is really cool. And it's this last summer we did, you have to stay up all through the night, and you make laps at the fairgrounds, and it's for cancer awareness. And we raised money, and we did a special thing with the cadets this year where they showed up, and they stayed up with us, and we walked the track into the night, and we raised money. We sold cookies, And it was actually called Rookies
Rookies for-
with Cookies, I think. And it was clever, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and it's just getting them out there, because we do a lot of tactics training, and it's fun. You know, we drive, and we have to learn firearms training and arrest control, but there's so many other things that the community sees us from day to day. We want to get their face out there. We want them to see what the community's about.
Well, it sounds like you have a really terrific course. In closing, can you kind of give us a little scenario of everything that's been going on at the college thus far?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things that happen every day. You know, we do a lot of scenarios, and in fact, some of you watching may have seen us doing scenarios. We do them pretty much all the time. And it's kind of interesting to be on campus, because you'll be, I can only imagine what some of the students think when they're walking through the campus, and they may be heading to class, and they look and they see a couple of cadets, chasing somebody, or they see them, doing some sort of arrest tactic or some sort of thing. It's a living thing that we have going on there, and there's a lot that goes on with scenarios, and we've done some really neat things. The Siskiyou County courts have been amazing. The staff from the district attorney's office, and also the public defender's office, and the judges. We've had these mock trials, which is really fascinating. So we bring the cadets in, and they get to actually feel what it's like to testify and be cross-examined, asked all these questions in court. It's very stressful. And what's interesting is we've heard success stories from our past cadets that they really appreciated that, because they've gone to court since being hired, and they felt more relaxed and comfortable being able to answer questions and not be tripped up as much, because it's nerve-wracking to be asked questions before maybe a jury. And you want to say the right thing, and all the pressure's on you, and you want to do a good job, and you want to convey something and be articulate about it. So there's just a lot involved in our academy training. Driver's training is really a big thing. I wanted to touch on that. There are, unfortunately, there's a lot of officers that are injured every year, and some unfortunately killed due to vehicle accidents. And there's a lot of people out there on the roadway, and it's not always the officer's fault, but they might be responding to a emergency call, or someone hits them when they're parked on the side of the road doing a traffic stop or an investigation. And so we train very specifically to avoid accidents, and we encourage them, the cadets, we want them to be very aware of their surroundings, of course. And we do a lot of driving at night, in the daytime, slow speed, fast speed. We try to give them a full, spectrum of driving possibilities, so that when they go and get a job, they've had more experience driving. Because you think about it, if you're 21 years old, maybe you got your license when you were 16, so you have maybe 4 or 5 years of behind the wheel. That's great, but of course it's not, as much as maybe 20 or 30 years. So, and then we're putting cadets into cars that can go well over 100 miles per hour, 120, 130 miles an hour. And you are then asked to respond to an in-progress call that might involve violence, which you might be trained perfectly. The problem is, there's all the other people out there that are going about their day, and you have to be aware of things. So those are just some of the things that we have to really focus on in our training program at College of the Siskious.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you, Lieutenant Jeremiah Larue, for being here, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on College Corner next time.